Well, good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Valerie Himes. I'm the principal here at Harrison Avenue School. I have been here for 12 years, and every day that I have been here, it has been a privilege to be principal of your child's school. I looked quickly at the participant list. There's a lot of familiar names in there. We have a lot of siblings coming in this year, but there's also many new families as well. If you are new to Harrison and to Harrison Avenue School, welcome. We're excited that you're here. And if you are a returning parent, if you already have children here, then it is really good to see you again. I am here today with some of my colleagues. Jennifer Spagnola is the assistant principal here at Harrison Avenue School. And our kindergarten team is also here. Jonna Williams, Joya Harold, Jennifer McCarthy, and Margaret Doherty. So we are going to spend a few moments going through what a typical kindergarten day would look like for your child in September. We'll also go through some of the safety and security protocols that we've put in place, considering the times that we're living in. We will stop every couple of slides to respond to your questions. If at the bottom of your screen, there should be an icon for the Q&A. We're going to ask that you keep your questions in the Q&A as opposed to putting them in the chat. If you keep them in the Q&A, we can just have one repository to hold your questions. We will stop every few minutes to look at the Q&A, to respond to some of your questions, and then I will allow for some time at the end of the presentation. We'll take one last look at the chat to see if there are any questions that are unanswered. So please stick with the Q&A for your questions. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to start off with the PTA. The Parent Teacher Association is really a valuable resource for families here at Harrison Avenue. They'll help you connect with others, with volunteering, and provide a sense of overall community between everyone in the community, school community here at Harrison. You will be receiving some more information about the PTA, their events, and how to sign up if you're a new family in the near future and throughout the summer.
We get lots of questions about how we place your kindergartner into a class, especially since they're new and we haven't spent much time with them before they arrive at Harrison Avenue. We use all the information that is available to us, and we both, welcome and really need your participation in that. We do collect information from you. We send home a questionnaire. You should have already gotten that. If you didn't, it can be sent out again. We also reach out to the preschools that your children have attended, if they did in fact attend preschool, to get a little information from them about how your child engaged in school during that time. We look at academics, we look at social needs. Sometimes your child is coming into kindergarten having known a friend, either from the neighborhood or from preschool. And we try to accommodate that wherever we can. Your knowledge of HAS, if you are, a current parent and you know the teachers or have had some common experiences here, and if there's anything about your child that you want us to know that's perhaps, different than child number one, we welcome that. We welcome that as well. We don't take requests for specific teachers, but we do very much want your input on the style of how your child learns, if that's something that you know, and we will take all of that into consideration. Our kindergarten team is a great group of educators. They are very experienced, and most importantly, they love teaching kindergarten. So wherever your child lands in kindergarten, he or she will have a good experience.
So at Harrison Avenue, Mrs. Scoury is our school nurse. We also have a health assistant here, Ms. Dede, who assists Mrs. Scoury in the health office. So the school nurse will be reaching out to you to ask you for information that's required for starting kindergarten. This will help us keep your child healthy and up to date with any required forms and immunizations that will be needed for them to be in school. Mrs. Scoury also does yearly vision and hearing screenings with your kindergartners. For any reason, if your child has any physical education or recess restrictions, please notify the nurse. She will also get in touch with the phys ed teachers as well as the school aides who help supervise at recess time. If for any reason your child needs to take medications while they're in school, please make sure that you hand those medications directly over to Mrs. Scoury along with any doctor's orders. Finally, sorry, not finally, but there's also emergency cards as well that are really important for parents to keep updated. So in case anything happens, the nurse will be able to contact you immediately. And as for allergies, if your child does have any allergies, we do have protocols on file for every student that does have an allergy. And Mrs. Scoury meets with all of the classroom teachers at the beginning of the year to go over those allergies so that we can keep your kindergartner safe. And also she meets with the school aides who help monitor during lunch and, as I mentioned, recess before. They're well aware of any allergies that your child might have.
So support services for eligible students. We want you to know that if there is a need that your child has, academically, or if they're struggling with anything at all, that there are supports that are available if they match up with what your child's needs. If your child's first language is not English, he or she may be eligible for ENL services. If your child needs speech and language or needs the assistance of the school psychologist, any kind of academic intervention, we provide all of those for students that are eligible. And our teachers meet frequently about students that we have concerns about or that parents have concerns about. And then we look at all of our available services to make sure that your child is well supported, or if there's a gap that needs to be filled, that we will work towards filling that gap.
So right now I'm just going to go over some of the instructional, the academic pieces of your child's day while they're here at Harrison Avenue as a kindergartner. So we use the workshop model as our primary instructional framework. Basically what the workshop model is that students will experience a mini lesson, which includes teacher modeling and guided practice of specific skills. Then students will then work independently or in a small group to practice those new skills that are taught from their teacher. And then afterwards, there will be a share out as a class to help the class understand the overall lesson, the lesson and the goals, and to bring closure to the lesson. So one of the workshops is called Reading Workshop. Your kindergartners will start to learn to read in kindergarten, which is really exciting. In the workshop model for reading, your child will learn about both fiction and nonfiction texts. They'll learn a variety of skills and strategies such as letter sounds, letter recognition, sight words, phrasing, expression, decoding tricky words, story elements such as in the beginning, middle, end of a story, character traits, and overall elements of nonfiction and fiction. All of these things combined will help with their reading, which is really exciting. Kindergartners are so excited to learn to read if they're not already reading as they come in as kindergartners. There, as I mentioned before, in the workshop model, there's individual and small group targeted instruction, and then a share at the end of the reading period. The writing workshop model is similar. Again, there'll be a mini lesson where they will learn to develop ideas, add details to their writing, include pictures throughout their story, stretching out unfamiliar words. Again, after the mini lesson, the kindergarten teachers will either meet with small groups, or students will be able to practice the skills taught independently. And it's very targeted instruction after the mini lesson. And then at the end, they will share. They will focus on different genres in writing. They'll be writing personal narratives, how-tos, nonfiction, poetry, and opinion pieces. During math workshop, during the mini lesson, there are a lot of numeracy skills that are taught and developed in kindergarten, which will later help with, it's the foundational work, which will spiral throughout the years as in their experience as a math learner at Harrison Elementary School. They're going to start with counting, combinations of 10 and 20. They focus on geometry, and problem solving is a big focus of attention in mathematics as well. The science and social studies curriculum is also present in your child's experience as a kindergartner. We really want to develop your students' natural curiosity and knowledge of the world as a whole. In science, they'll explore weather, forces in motion, living things. And in social studies, they're going to learn about themselves and others, the community, and overall citizenship.
So one of the most important parts of school, and particularly in kindergarten for the 5-year-old, is for them to learn to love school. Certainly, we focus on academics. Our academic program is very rigorous, even in kindergarten, but we want to balance that out with making sure that students feel safe in school, that this is a place for them, that they belong here. So we do a lot of work on building community, on teaching your child like how to be a good friend, how to express themselves. We teach children that we have similarities and differences, and that all of those similarities and differences should be celebrated. Dr. Feldman who is our school psychologist, does a lot of work with classroom teachers on being a good friend and conflict resolution, problem solving, life skills that are transferable, how to play together in a group so that they feel comfortable both socially and academically. We also work with the Harrison Youth Council, who partners with us and with Dr. Feldman. In the past, they have come into classrooms to do presentations on positive peer relationships, and again, being a good friend, and just the social piece of school. Learning is social, and it is especially social for our 5-year-olds. Some of the visuals that you see now are things that are school-wide projects that we did to bring our whole community together. Harrison Avenue is a large school. There's almost 600 students who attend here. So our goal really is to take a very large school and make it feel like a smaller second home for your child. The bulletin board presentation that you see that says "We All Fit," that was a project that we did as a school community when we came back to school, when every student was here full time, every day, all day. We talked about how we all fit together as a puzzle piece. For those of you who may not be aware, when students were in the hybrid model, we had 2 different groups of students coming on alternate days, and we wanted for those groups of students to feel as though we are one community. We've done school-wide book read-alouds that you see there on the right in your screen. So again, we want to make sure that your child is happy in school, that they love school, and that they feel like they belong here. So some other kindergarten highlights that are both academic and non-academic. I'll go through each of these areas with you briefly so that you know what happens during those times. So even in kindergarten, I'm sure you probably know this from seeing your child engage at home. Our 5-year-olds have become very tech savvy. Each kindergartner was given their own individual iPad this year. That practice will continue. We use applications that support learning. We used Seesaw is the name of a platform that we used to post work, but it's also used in the classrooms for center time. There's a lot of academic learning that can be used. It's not technology just for technology's sake, but as a way to for students to access content. We do balance that out. We understand that we wouldn't want our students on devices, all day, every day. So we balance that out with more traditional learning experiences. Our library media specialist and our full-time assistant in the library also infuse technology into the library media program. Lunchtime. It is great if you've ever seen a group of 5-year-olds eat together all at the same time. It's a really fun experience. You can either have your child purchase lunch through an account, or they can bring their lunch. You don't have to do the same thing every day. So if you want your child to buy their lunch on Monday and bring their lunch on Tuesdays, you can certainly do that. You don't have to commit to one form or the other. This year lunch was interesting. The social distance requirements caused us to have to spread the children out throughout different places. The children did eat in the cafeteria on certain days. They did eat in their classroom on certain days. And now we also have students eating in the hallways on certain days. We try to mix that up so that students get to eat in all of those places and they're not just eating in one. You would be amazed at how facile they are with knowing where their lunch spot is on that day, and they have navigated that system beautifully with the support of the classroom teachers. So we have that system down right now. When we open in September, those guidelines may change. We may be able to put all the students back in the cafeteria. We will have to wait and see what guidance we receive throughout the summer. Recess is also a lot of fun to watch. Mrs. Spagnola and I are outside a lot for kindergarten recess. Some things have opened up throughout the year. In the beginning of the year, our playground was not open. Now it is, and we have students rotating through by class. Kids can still do a lot. They are creative with their play. They play on the playground equipment. We do have balls and jump ropes. Our recess monitors monitor your children at lunch. And as I said, Mrs. Spagnola and I are out there a lot. It's where they get the most, choice in their day. They have been cohorted with their class, but they have also navigated that really well. And again, moving forward into September, we'll see if any of those guidelines change that would allow us to open things up a bit more.
Mrs. Hyams, if I could also just add in one of the
Sure.
pictures, we have an SRO
Wow.
Officer Mike, that we share with Parsons Elementary School. When Officer Mike is here, he's always engaging with the kids. You can see him throwing a ball with some of our students out at recess time. So he's a great value add to our community here at Harrison Avenue.
Okay. Our schedule works on a 6-day cycle, A through F days. Your children will go to art Once during that 6-day cycle, this is Mrs. Monty, she is our art teacher. They also go to music. Once during that 6-day cycle, Mrs. Bennett is our chorus teacher. The students were not able to do to sing this year. A large part of our kindergarten program is around song and rhythm and really community. But that sense of community was still able to be built in, even though the children weren't able to sing, they were able to do a lot of movement, to listen to a lot of songs, to dance a bit. So we still had a full music program, and we hope to get back to singing in the fall. We have 3 physical education teachers at Harrison Avenue. Again, we were still able to provide a really healthy and robust physical education program, even with the social distancing requirements. We used our outside space a lot. We have a fairly large campus, lots of outdoor space. So when the weather permitted and the activity permitted, the physical education teachers brought the students outside. When they were inside, they modified games and activities to meet the social distancing requirements. And the kids still had a great time. You know, when I went into the gym to see the kids, you know, phys ed still really looked like phys ed. Students go to library once a cycle. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention physical education is 3 times during that 6-day cycle. Library is once or twice during that 6-day cycle. The students learn about story elements, about book handling. They get to choose books. We figured out a system to do that safely this year, and that will continue into next year. Okay. Is this me, Mrs. Spagnola? Okay. Building independence. We ask for your help in helping to build your child's independence. We focus on that a lot in kindergarten. These are just some of the things that you can do to help out at home. Letting your children do as much as they can, you know, on their own, even if it takes a little bit longer. It will help build their stamina, their frustration tolerance. It'll help them learn how to problem solve, you know, and encourage them to take a risk. You know, one of the messages that we send at Harrison Avenue is that we learn over time, that not everything works just the way we want it to the first time. And we have to build our stamina and build our grit. Your children can do a lot on their own. We see it here in school. The kindergarten teachers see it every day. So we appreciate your partnership around helping to build their independence. So, you know, this is a safety and security. This slide actually is one that we used last year when we knew what the guidelines were around reopening. So I wanted to give you an idea of what was put in place last year to keep our buildings clean, to keep adults and students safe. And, you know, some of this will be in school moving forward because it is just good practice. We did have hand washing protocols. We put in more sanitizing stations than ever before around the school so that there was always access. There's hand sanitizers outside on the playground. All of the teachers had a schedule for hand washing before and after meals and, you know, throughout the day. And that is just good practice, and we will continue to do that. We followed the social distancing requirements and adjusted them as they changed throughout the year. We will keep those in place as we need to. For example, on the playground, we only have one class in there at a time. We try to social distance them on the bus as well. We do that at lunch. And as I said, as the guidelines, you know, start to adjust, we will adjust alongside with them. If you were not at Harrison Avenue last year, then you know that there were a number of presentations around reopening. And I am sure that, you know, we will be communicating any changes or adjustments that will be made for the new school year as we get informed by the state. Masks are still required in schools. Just yesterday, many of you know, the state lifted the mask mandates under many conditions, but masks are still required in school. Kids got a lot of mask breaks, both kids and adults needed them. We got very lucky this year that we had great weather. A lot of those mask breaks took place outside, and there were multiple breaks throughout the day. Teachers also use the outside for teaching. If they were going to read their students a story, oftentimes you would see them doing that outside. Anybody who was in the building was required to wear a mask. The school is cleaned throughout the day. We really limited visitors to the building this year. It was a difficult kind of call to make. The parent community is so much a part of our students' learning. In the past, parents came in for many reasons, to help in the classroom, for special events, and we were not able to do some of those things this year. So we really did limit parents being in the building. Again, as the rules about that, change, we will adjust along with it. We put at the bottom of the slide, you'll see that our reopening plan is on the website. It's not the reopening plan for September 2021. We're not there yet in terms of knowing what we'll be able to do. But I thought for anybody who had not been at Harrison Avenue before, or who's new to the district, that might be something that you would want to do. You can take a look at what we did last year, and certainly there'll be more information as the summer progresses. So I see a few questions now. I will take a look at them. We'll try to answer them. Okay, so there's a question here about how many kids are in a classroom and the hours of the school day. We have about anywhere between 20 children and 22 children. That number is a little bit lower this year, but typically we have about 21 or 22. There is also a full-time teacher aide in the kindergarten classes in every class. School begins, the bell rings at 8:50. It ends at 3 o'clock. And as far as an online parent group, our PTA are really the people to connect with around that. They've done a lot to stay connected with parents, but I can get back to you about anything specific that's happening online. Yes, it's being recorded. Yes, this presentation will be posted to the website. I apologize, I should have mentioned that from the beginning. So anybody who was not able to watch, you will find it posted. The children do learn how to add and subtract in math. Let's see. Okay. Okay. There's a question in here about before and after school programs. So we don't have formal before and after school like clubs at the elementary level. That doesn't start until middle school. But even though the day starts at 8:50, you can drop your child off as early as 8 a.m. And the Harrison Children's Center uses Harrison Avenue School for their after school program. And you'll be getting information about that particular organization when we send home our back to school packets. Okay, somebody's asking about security. All of the exterior doors are locked all day. We do have a school resource officer that travels between Harrison Avenue and the Parsons School. So there is somebody here every day. Yes, there are drills. The teachers and the students are well versed in what to do if there's a fire drill or any other type of threat. Our district-wide safety plan is on the website. The school-specific plans are not on the website for the obvious reasons. We wouldn't want everybody to kind of know what we do in different types of situations, but there are drills, and even our kindergartners get pretty well versed in them throughout the course of the year. Let's see. There's a question about chess club. I will find out if chess club will be reinstated. We hope to do more and more in person as time goes on. And you'll be getting information about all of those activities as well. Okay. I'm just going to check one time. Masks are required when you are on school grounds. I believe that we have not changed that. As I said, if anything changes around the health and safety protocols, we will let you know. Right now, those have not been applied to K-12 schools. So masks when you're in the building and when you're outside the building. Approach. Okay. Yeah. So there's a question about whether the goal is to be as back to normal as possible, and the answer to that is is absolutely, to the extent that we can. Up until this point, we have followed all of the guidelines that New York State adopted from the CDC. The CDC makes recommendations. Our governor, chooses to, adopt them, and then those are put in place, and they are requirements for everybody. And we have followed them, as stringently as we can. But yes, of course, the goal would be to have school be what we remember it to be, and have children being able to do all of the things that they used to do. There was a question about, the playground and allowing more, children in. It's a good question. One of the things that we were trying to avoid was in the event that we did have to, contact trace if there was a positive case. We didn't have to quarantine. We didn't want to have to quarantine more children than was necessary. But, of course, we would want things to get back to, the traditional school day for sure. I think I answered this, but I need to say it differently. When the CDC puts out recommendations, we do have to wait for New York State, the governor, and for the New York State Department of Health to adopt them. Once they are adopted, we must follow them, unless the governor gives us a choice about certain things. So, for example, right about the first or second week in August last year, Governor Cuomo said that schools can reopen, and that was a very general guideline that he gave. It was up to individual school districts to develop their own reopening plans. There were some school districts that didn't open at all and stayed completely virtual for a period of time. There were others who did as Harrison Avenue did and had a hybrid model. And then as we were able to reopen a bit more, even those timelines were different. So Harrison Avenue opened on March 23rd for all students to be back on all days. Other districts waited until after the spring break, their district spring break, to bring all of their students back. So under a condition like that, the district may have a choice, but if it comes to, you know, health and safety protocols thus far, there have not been many choices that we were permitted. So I hope that answers that a little bit more fully. Okay. I'm just going to take one more look in the Q&A to see if there's anything that I missed. Somebody asked if this incoming class is much larger than other classes. I understand the question. I think it's relating to the fact that some parents chose not to send their children either to Harrison Avenue School or chose, you know, a different option. We don't see a particularly large cohort. It's what it would be in any other year. There's still a lot of time left to register children. There's no registration deadline. So if somebody moves into the district and they have a kindergartner zone for Harrison Avenue School, they will come here. And if we need to, you know, increase staff, then we do that. But right now, it looks as it would in most other years. Okay. There's a question about kindergarten screening. In the past, prior to the spring of 2020, we did have children come in for a more formalized screening last year, and we're going to do this again this year as well. We sent home a questionnaire for parents so that you can give us some information about your child. We sent home a questionnaire to the preschools, and they gave us more academic and social information about your child. We will not be doing the traditional screening that we have done in the past. It is a lot of people to enter the building, and you know, we're not quite there yet. But the teachers and I are having conversations about how to maybe bring small groups of kids in so that they can interact with the teachers, so that the teachers can you know, get to know them a little bit better. Any information that you can provide us about your child would be helpful. When parents write me placement letters, usually it's just an email telling me whatever they think is important for me to know about their child. So we will try to do more than we did last year, but we are still in the planning stages right now. The dress code is very simple for elementary students. It really just should be school appropriate. Children should be covered. They are allowed to wear, you know, short pants and you know, t-shirts when it's hot. That's fine. We don't recommend shoes like flip-flops because they're hard to run in for little ones. And they will need sneakers on the days that they have physical education. Busing is available for kindergarten. The transportation department will be reaching out to you if you meet the requirement for that. And opportunities to visit and see the school. We did not do any individual tours this year. Last year at the end of the summer, once children had gotten parents had gotten their child's placement letter letting them know who their child's teacher would be. We did offer tours towards the end of August by teacher, by class. Mrs. Spagnola and I brought parents in to tour the school, to see their child's classroom. We wanted parents to feel comfortable sending their children here and wanted them to see what the classroom setup would be would be like. So we did offer that opportunity, and we will offer something similar again. I don't have the answer to the mandate around children having to take the vaccine. At this point, I believe the vaccines are available for students 12 and over. I don't think they are yet available for elementary aged children. And again, those are decisions that are typically made by the health department. So when we know what those are, we will certainly communicate that to you. Okay. Your survey results will come to us, so you don't have to worry about once you submit the survey. Those results come straight to the principals. There's a question about whether or not how parents are going to know if their child needs English as a second language services. Students who speak another language whose parents fill out their home language questionnaire saying that another language is spoken in the home or that their first language is not English will be given an assessment to see if they need those services. The questionnaire was sent via email by our main office. I'm assuming that since there's a lot of questions about how the questionnaire came to you, that perhaps there might be a need for me to resend that, so I will do that. Placement letters are sent out the second or third week in August. And yes, our kindergarten teachers work as a team in terms of curriculum and materials. They are not in lockstep for every lesson every day, but the requirements for every kindergartner are the same. The teachers plan as a team and follow the exact same curriculum for the kids to meet the exact same goals at the end of the year. I'm going to take one last look. Okay. Please feel free to email Mrs. Spagnola or I directly if you want to talk about your individual child. I think we just have a few slides left, photos of our staff so that you can put a name to a face if you don't know them. Okay. This is our office staff, Mrs. Villalobos and Mrs. Brereton. Our kindergarten teachers who you saw on the chat. I'm sorry, on the screen. And as I mentioned earlier, each kindergarten teacher has a full-time teacher aide all day. Dr. Feldman, our school psychologist, school nurse, these are all our special area teachers. I'll take one last look at the Q&A. Oh, and there was just one more question about when the questionnaire needed to be completed. You know, as soon as you can get it to us, that would be great. Again, I think we need to resend it because there were a lot of questions about what form it was coming in. But if you could get it to us before the end of the school year, that will be helpful. Okay. I think I got all of the questions in the Q&A. As I said, please email me directly. I'm happy to talk to you more about your own child. We can do that via Zoom. We can do that on the phone, whichever you prefer. I want to know anything that you feel is important for us to know about your son or your daughter. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you soon.